Transition! Sorry. Okay.
Good?
Yes, we should be.
Alright. Welcome to today's Books by Brunch. It is Sunday, October 8th? No, October 9th. Right?
9th, yes.
Today is October 9th, and today we're going to be taking a little bit of a look at Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, or Modern Prometheus. Alright, so we had our starting student screen up just to give us some time to let people know we were live and stuff like that. So we're gonna kind of get started here right away. I just want to preface this by saying, I read Frankenstein a little bit ago. I didn't get a chance to fully read I mean, if I had the time, I would have probably reread the whole thing again, just because I liked it so much. But you finished it a couple weeks ago?
Yes.
So yeah, we have some things we want to talk about. But first, I think Jer, you did this work and I didn't. Jer's gonna give us a little bit of a history and a background on Mary Shelley, the author.
Well, first we should say hello and welcome.
I did say welcome.
To Books by... Wait, say it with... Ow! Say it with me. Books by Brunch.
I already said this.
My name is Jer, my pronouns are they, them, and you are...
Jasper, he, him. Just gonna give us a little bit of background on Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, before we start.
Mary Shelley was born on August 30th in 1797. So I think there might be a little bit of fusion there, because I see different things about her age and they don't seem to line up entirely every single time. Happy Leif Erikson Day.
Erikson Day?
Yes.
Holy crap.
She had a couple of siblings. Her mother was Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin and was a social activist. Her father was a famous philosopher by the name of William Godwin. Her mother died when she was young, Mary Wollstonecraft.
Topical.
Then her father got married to Mary Jane Clairmont, another Mary. For some reason, her life was surrounded by Marys, including herself.
Yeah.
It's a very little interesting. Throughout her childhood, she met a lot of famous guests through father. Samuel Taylor Coleridge, William Wordsworth, and there's even rumors that she had tea parties with Aaron Burr, the man who murdered
Mr.
Alexander Hamilton. So that's a very interesting little thing. Which it would have actually been after he had killed Alexander Hamilton, wouldn't it have been?
Probably, yeah.
If it's the early 1800s.
He died, very early on, yeah.
Yeah. Damn fool who shot him, yeah. She did not have a good relationship with her stepmother. Her stepmother made it so that her stepsister went to school, but didn't bother to get Mary Shelley any actual education. She did it all herself through reading in father's library and herself most of it. And her first poem was published called Monsieur non ton pas. I don't know how to say it. Like fucking French or some shit. In 1807 through her father's publishing company. During the summer of 1812, when she was 15, 16,
Teenager.
She was a teenager. She met her husband. Or no, she went to stay. Met him 2 years later. There's a lot of very weird, miscalculated dates.
Well, yeah, there's...
She went to Scotland to stay with acquaintances of her father, William Baxter. We're learn more, but in 1814, she began her relationship with poet Percy Bysshe Shelley, who is regarded as one of the most distinguished poets of the 19th century. Though you never hear about him, for the most part.
Because of... Hear about her.
Yeah. He ran away from his first wife, but he also had a second wife at the time. See, there's some really weird things happening. I've been trying to look at different... Is everything okay?
Yeah, my cocoa just...
Yeah?
I think I put too much water in it.
Put in another cocoa packet.
No.
Did you put in one?
Yeah.
That's the size of 2 cups.
Oh.
So you need to put a second packet.
Oh my goodness.
He's silly. Yeah, there's a lot of weird time...
Consistency errors.
Yeah, I'd call them consistency errors. That lead me to believe that, Percy was in a relationship with both Mary Shelley and his second wife at this time. But there's very little mention of his second wife unless you look at his biography. So it's very interesting. His first wife and him got a divorce, and he did not get custody of the children. Mary Shelley and Percy struggled multiple times to have children, but they lost their first child in 1815, year after they met, and they ran away from England to Europe to everywhere. They ended up in traveling along the Rhine and visiting Geneva and different areas that are highlighted in the story of Frankenstein itself. Jasper's blowing his nose. It was during this trip where Mary Shelley began work on her famous novel Frankenstein at the age of 18. And 2 years later, it was published on January 1st, 1818. Published by an unknown author, anonymously.
This would be volume 1 of Frankenstein, by the way.
Actually, it was all released together.
It was, really?
Yeah. I don't know why it's split into volumes in that case, but
it's bizarre.
It seems it was all released together.
I could have sworn they weren't.
Yeah, I was looking and I couldn't find that they were released separate.
Usually if it's in volumes like that, they're usually...
Yeah.
Separate. Well, who's to say? I mean, the history's a little murky as it is anyway.
Yeah.
So who knows what's right and what's wrong. Take everything we say with a grain of salt in this
regard. Oh, yeah.
The thing we have concrete in front of us is the text.
I'm going off of the best I could find from, like, multiple different biography sources. So yeah, of course, take it with a grain of salt. All of history should be taken with a grain of salt because it's, history is based on perspective. A lot of lies in history.
Also a lot of lies on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. It was debuted by an anonymous author, and a lot of people attributed it to her husband, Percy Shelley. Because...
some people still do.
Yeah. I don't think could have, because at that time he wrote his first great work poem.
Yeah.
Which was 720 lines. So, I don't think he would have had the time to write that and Frankenstein. Same. They moved to Italy. They were devout. She was devoted to him. He was not the most voted. Um,
Yeah.
for reference, he was a vegetarian. He was an atheist who wrote a brochure when he was like fucking 14 studying at Oxford, and he's like, why atheism is the true way or some shit. And then he got expelled from Oxford because he's like, I wrote this, and they're like, say you didn't write it. He's like, I did. And he was really into sexual revolution along with socialism. He's a very interesting guy, but this isn't about him.
This ain't about him.
Their only child of theirs that lived to adulthood was Percy. 19. And then in 1822, Percy Shelley drowned. Her sister committed suicide a couple years before that. And Percy's first wife committed suicide. And, yeah, she was surrounded by a lot of debt. She was
no shit.
Yeah, she was widowed by the age of 24. She continued writing. She even wrote a story called The Last Man, which details the last surviving person after a global plague.
Oh, man.
And then she died February 1st, 1851 of... had a posthumous novel released called Matilde. I think it's pronounced Matilde. In 1950.
That's a long time. That's 100-year difference. That's interesting.
Yeah. And that is the biography of Mary.
Yeah. Wonder if this is the theme of death in her in her life permeates her writing. Well, that's what we're here to talk about.
Oh wait, I had another history thing to talk about.
Yes.
Frankenstein's castle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she didn't come up with the name Frankenstein. Frankenstein is actually a very ordinary name for Germanic castles. Because Frank being one of the Germanic tribes, and Stein being the German word for stone, so it means basically German stone.
Or so German of the stone,
yeah. German stone castle, basically. And there is a particular one that it is believed to have been the inspiration for the story Frankenstein, for a number of reasons. Let's get into it. First off, this castle was built in 1250. So,
good year.
There's a huge difference between when it was built and when she came around. It passed through many different hands over the time between then. And when she stayed there in the 1800s. And for some time in the 18th century, it was used as a refuge and a hospital before falling into disrepair and becoming essentially a tourist spot. There's a couple really interesting myths about the area. The story of Frankenstein is believed to be inspired by the alchemist Dipple, who lived at Frankenstein's castle.
That's cool.
Love
alchemy.
There are myths that he actually... his life was basically the story of Frankenstein.
That he tried to do something similar?
Yeah, that he tried to do something similar. But it's really debated on whether... like, she actually visited there. She was about 10 miles from the location of it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of coincidences between that myth and her writing that lead people to believe that she writing a retelling of one of the myths that she heard there. Which is honestly very possible. Because, the reason she started writing Frankenstein was because one of their friends, Lord Byron, who they were traveling with at the time, suggested by campfire that they tell each other ghost stories. Or they try their hand at writing them. So, if she had heard that story from somebody nearby, and she shared it word of mouth, and decided to write it all out as her own story, basically an oratory kind of.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. He created something known as Dippel's oil, which was equivalent to an elixir of life.
Yeah.
And there are rumors that he exhumed dead bodies and experimented on them.
So true.
And this is where misconception of the lightning bolt bringing the life comes from. Because there were claims that a lightning bolt had struck the castle and created a monster.
Yeah. Well,
but that's like wicked debated.
There is talk of the lightning in the novel itself, but it's not to... It doesn't have to do with bringing the creature to life. It's just an observation that Victor makes in his youth.
Yeah.
That, like, kind of starts to help him put things together.
Yeah.
Because he's, like, all in the alchemy, and then the storm comes, and then that makes him question alchemy.
Yeah. There's a lot of similarities, to this myth.
I can even...
But the lightning striking and bringing the monster to life is not present in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It is present in the 1931 film.
Which is where a lot of people's notion of Frankenstein comes from, is that original film. And then from that spawns...
Did you watch that?
I've seen it, yes.
Yes, I haven't seen it.
I saw it a long, long time ago, and I watched that movie before I read the book. I watched that movie in high school. It's a good film. I like it. It's just, it's so different. It's so incredibly different. There's a lot of things that ring true about it. But there's also a lot of things that they take liberty with. You know?
So there are local people in that area that believe that Mary Shelley was told that story by her mother, Mary Jane Claremont, who was told that story by the Brothers Grimm.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting. The Brothers Grimm original, like, fairy tales and myths are very, morbid. Very dark.
Yeah.
Which I think is
none of these
ironic.
claims are confirmed.
That would be
they
cool,
are
though.
Local speculation. And there are local researchers who doubt that there was actually any connection between Mary Shelley and the Frankenstein castle. So, just the name of Frankenstein and being in the area kinda leads you to believe that there was a connection.
Yeah.
But that is something we can't really confirm.
The thunderstorm thing is in chapter 2. We'll talk about it when we get there. But, yeah.
There is also a famous legend about that specific castle called Lord George and the Dragon, about a dragon that lived near that castle that would eat people and kill children, and so many people lived in fear of this dragon.
So true.
There is claims that there's a fountain of youth behind the herb garden of the castle, that older women will come on Walpurgis night, which I'm not sure what it is, and attempt to be rejuvenated by tests of courage. There was also a gold rush in that area in the because of fortune tellers who claimed that there was gold in the air. No gold vaults were ever found. Fortune hunters did not abandon until somebody was killed when his dig collapsed on him, given a suicide's burial. Interesting. There were more attempts made in 1770, 1787, and 1788, but no gold was ever found.
Think people would do that? Go into the 18th century and tell lies?
Yes. There's actually so many really interesting things about this specific castle. There's magnetic phenomena behind the castle as well.
No shit.
There are stones back there that when you bring a compass near them, they freak out.
Holy shit, are you kidding me?
No, it's just a natural phenomenon. There's like, the stones are incredibly magnetic that
That's
causes
so
compasses
fucking cool. That's so cool.
to not work. And so each year, multiple times a year, there are many different rituals that are held in that area. Yeah. Then in 1952, I really like this one. If I can find it again. Well, in 1952, there was a live radio broadcast from the castle, on Halloween night. One of the higher-ups of this radio station sent in some reporters to go do an investigation due to the rumor that Frankenstein's creature would return every year on Halloween.
So true!
And so this guy hid a quote-unquote animatronic statue, a statue that moved in the basement, and scared the shit out of them.
And this was in...
Yeah, 1952. Live on air, apparently.
Damn!
And it resulted in the military police being called in.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Alright. So, before... Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Before we, start diving into this text, I think we should just give, a little bit of an overview on what we're kind of going into. Now, obviously, Frankenstein is a whole novel. Jared and I have both read it. If you haven't read it, this is what this is for. Basically, Victor Frankenstein is this, very... What's the word I would use? Touched. He's this touched student who, his mother dies when he's about 17, I believe. And he just has this fascination with the processes of life and death. Gets into, alchemy at a very young age. Is very, enraptured by natural order and processes and just nature in of itself. So he goes out of his way to do this experiment, in which people use the word, Frankensteining something, meaning to throw things together. He basically gathers these dead body parts, of these... They're, he tries to basically recreate the perfect person, you know? With a big brain, strong muscle, just peak physical form. He tries to basically bring someone to life, or a new person to life, and it goes horribly wrong. And he's, repulsed by his creature that he creates, and this is where it kind of starts to get different from a lot of, those perceptions of Frankenstein. This creature is incredibly intelligent. That big brain is put to use. This creature is so incredibly smart and calculated and has a lot of emotion. And that's where kind of the morality kind of comes in for so basically what happens is... What?
Name. Oh man, Victor is one of those gifted kids. Ew.
Yeah, he's incredibly smart. But so is this monster. So basically what we get is the creature trying to basically prove that, I just want friends. When he runs away from Victor, he goes off and he learns all this stuff. But he's also incredibly abused because of the way he looks. People think that he's hurting people because of how he looks. Because he is grotesque. He tries to prove himself and Victor's no. And then he's like, please make me a wife. And Victor agrees, doesn't go through with it, and the monster's like, if you don't make me a wife, you will hear from me. Basically, he's like, I will hear from you. So basically what ends up happening is the monster vows his vengeance against humanity. Because Victor doesn't do, what he asks, kills his best friend, kills his wife, tries to kill him, goes off into the...
Kills his little brother.
Yeah, I forgot that, yeah. He frames someone for murder, almost, too. So basically what ends up happening is Victor tries to, like, catch him for, like, months in the frickin', like, glacier, like, ice caps. And then Victor is found by this ship. I don't think it's in the Arctic. I don't remember where it is.
No, I'm pretty sure it's the Arctic.
In the Arctic, yeah. He's found by the ship.
Or at least as far as the Arctic went at that point.
At that point, yeah.
It would have spread a lot further than it does today.
He is found by
the ice caps are melting.
He is found by the ship by a guy named Walton. And Walton is actually the guy who opens up the novel. What I find interesting about Frankenstein is that it does have two narrators. Victor himself and Walton.
Three,
yeah, actually, three.
The creature itself.
The creature himself. The only reason I didn't say that is because it is technically in quotation. It's just that that's a whole chunk of the novel. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we get the creature, we get Victor, when we get Walton. Walton is the guy who does these letters at the front. And then Walton also ends the novel because it's like, I found this guy, he's gonna tell me his story. Which is the bulk of the chapters. Is Victor telling his story with Walton as the listener.
You know something interesting?
What?
Walton states how he's just searching for a friend as well.
Exactly! And, like, part of the thing is, he's like, I wish I had met Victor sooner. Because I could have, like, helped him more or something. There's, like, a sense of, like,
But...
like, I could have done something better for him.
Isn't that the same goal that the creature has? To just find a friend?
Well, yeah, I mean, a whole big theme of this novel is isolation.
Yeah.
In multiple different ways, and we'll probably get into that. But Walton is the guy who begins.
Before we get into things, now Jasper, will you please explain to us the concept of rational faculty?
Alright.
Because that might be a very important to analyzing this novel.
Which is interesting because this isn't technically a Renaissance.
No.
Alright. So, I know a lot about the rational faculty thanks to my education. Basically, the rational faculty is the voice of reason. The rational faculty is the ability to make choices in the human mind. It was believed, big Renaissance kind of thinkers, you know, that the ability to choose to have a rational faculty and the ability to make choices and delegate your own kind of life, the ability to make that choice is the spark of God. That our ability to make rational, reasonable choices is what makes us closer in the chain to God. That puts us above animals who do not have that ability to make, you know, rational, quote-unquote, choices. I'm sure animals can make, you know, their instinctual choices. This is more about critical thinking and, you know, reason. Animals don't have reason. Puts us above animals, puts us above plants, puts us above everything except for, quote-unquote, angels who are above us and God. Or, you know, in the great chain of being.
Now, will you please explain the great chain of being?
I've already kind of explained it, but the great chain of being is basically the hierarchy, with God at the top and shit at the bottom. People are pretty much a bit above middle. It would be God, it would be angels, you know, seraphs, whatever you want to say is there. The underlings to God, but are still divine beings. Under them are humans. And then it would go animals, plants, shit, crud, whatever you would want to call it. So yeah, that ability to make choices is what puts us on that, place on the chain. This was a big Renaissance idea. You see it a lot in Shakespeare's works, you see it a lot in, like, Brit Lit. Paradise Lost, which is actually something that is mentioned in Frankenstein, that's a huge thing about, Paradise Lost, is, Dr. Faustus also, that's the entire thing, is what happens when you try to play God. And I think that's where it kind of starts to combine with Frankenstein is, you have this rational choice, but what happens when you try to like make divine or, you know, choices that are larger than yourself, choices that are larger than what what human beings are capable of doing, which is basically what Victor does. Victor plays God by trying to create something he cannot create. And when we talk about Dr. Faustus, this will become a much bigger kind of idea. But the idea is, you betray your place on the great chain of being, you are going to pay the price. Which Victor does. So the kind of takeaway here is, Victor, in a roundabout sort of way, tries to betray his place on the great chain of being. He tries to do something he's not supposed to be able to do. He goes about it in a scientific way, and it also goes to show that sometimes the pursuit of knowledge can go too far, which is also something in Dr. Faustus. And this is exactly Victor's downfall. So, we have this innate gift, this ability to make choices. But what do we do with that gift?
The first piece I want to talk about in actually analyzing Frankenstein is Victor himself. The second part I want to get into is determining the morality and the rational faculty of the creature.
Yeah.
Does the creature have rational faculty and things like that? But first, we need to talk about Victor Frankenstein being the modern Prometheus. The story of Prometheus is the classical Greek titan who steals fire from the gods and gifts it to mortals.
Yep.
Who does not have control over what he has stolen. He does not know how to wield it, and neither do the people who gives it to. And so, in turn, becomes tortured for all eternity for what he has done. That parallels Frankenstein. He attempts to gift the spark of life, the fire, to a creature. He attempts to give that rational faculty to a creature that normally would not have it.
Yeah.
And in doing so, he becomes tortured throughout the rest of his remaining life by his actions. If you did not wish to reap
then
Victor
why,
Frankenstein, then why did you sow? What are your thoughts there?
What, me?
Yes.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, like, it's in that, like, place of the rational faculty thing. We are given this, you know, gift on this earth of life and of reason, of choice, to kind of delegate our own kind of, we get what we want out of life by the choices that we make. It's just about, if you did not wish to reap, then why did you sow? When you play God, and you are not God, you will fall. You will face the consequences. Like, I think you said it perfectly. Why did you sow?
Why did you sow? And he finds out snail down. Hold on, that snail's floating. Holy shit.
He did succeed in making it.
Yes, he did.
It's not about the fact that he failed his experiment. His experiment was successful. It's that the mental toll and the repercussions and the actually, in turn, the success of his experiment going as well as it did is part of what brings him down, because that creature is so incredibly smart, so incredibly gifted, so incredibly agile and scary and strong. Talk about strength. He did exactly what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
He did exactly what he wanted to do. It's just that it's just a pure backfire. That thing is way too strong for this earth. And he immediately regrets it the minute it comes to life. There isn't that, like, it's alive moment, really, that you see in a lot of the movies. No, the minute that creature starts coming to life, Victor is terrified.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrified.
There's nothing but regret at the fact that now he has to reap what he has sown.
There's only one point of regret that he starts to feel, then we will get into that later.
Do we think that covers how why Victor is known as the modern Prometheus?
He made a space marine.
He made a space marine.
He did!
Do we think that covers it?
I think so. Unless someone... if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We're blabbering, but we'll be looking at chat. We appreciate you guys having a conversation with us. But if you have any questions, let us know. This is a big novel. Honestly, I'm not sure if we'll even get to everything today.
Yeah.
But this is a biggie. This is a biggie, and we have a lot of thoughts and feelings about it.
Before we get into the creature, who is also Frankenstein, people have made very good points that I have seen that the creature itself is also Frankenstein.
Because he considers himself Victor's son.
Yes. There is no canonic name to the creature, though it is an accepted given name by many people, that his name is Adam.
Yeah.
So Adam Frankenstein, which we may say it, we may not. I don't know.
I've always referred to him as the creature.
Yeah.
I don't like calling him the monster for exactly the reasons we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But you are welcome to call him whatever you want. You can call him Adam, you can call him Frankenstein's monster, Frankenstein's creature, the monster. I usually call him the creature.
La Criciera. I don't believe that was actually part of myth. From my memory, he wasn't punished for giving dangerous portals, but because portals were forbidden. Yeah. Prometheus did have benevolent intentions, but I was reading some scholarly things this morning about like the ramifications of fire and how it led to dangerous implications.
Yeah.
And it was something that could not be properly wielded.
Well, that also goes to Victor himself too. He wasn't trying to hurt anyone.
Yeah.
This is exactly not what he wanted. Like, the results are not what he wanted. The cause and effect.
Yeah.
It has to do with cause and effect.
Not everything we say is, not everything is said on the internet in scholarly articles or by us is the end-all be-all. These are all interpretations.
Yeah, it's good to have a discussion about.
But before we get into Creature, can you explain the literary themes of freedom or free will versus fate?
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. Okay. So basically there's the, people still say this. Do we have fate or do we have free will? Basically, what this means is, do we have the right to choose our own destiny, or are we on a fixed path? Are things laid out for us? Is the end point already predetermined and everything else in between predetermined? Or, with death as the end point, can we maneuver our way through it as we please to get to that point, you know? I don't want to talk about Donnie Darko, but it's the thing that comes to mind when when we talk about fate versus free will. My favorite movie of all time is Donnie Darko. I know that's not what we're talking about today, but Donnie Darko kind of plays with that idea. There's this point where, it's a very 2000s movie. This, line comes out of Donnie's chest, and he follows it, and it kind of plays to the idea of, and it leads him to a gun in the closet. So
what is that called, though?
Chekhov's gun?
No.
What?
What is the thing from his chest?
That
is a very important name.
The manifestation of destiny.
God's channel.
God's channel. Yeah. So, this manifestation of destiny comes, leads him on this path to lead him to this gun that he takes. And it's just, does he make that choice to find the gun? It doesn't seem like he does in this case. And this movie's very, a lot of conspiracy theories about this movie. But it plays to the idea of, do we make choices because we can, or are the choices that we make already predetermined by some force greater than us? It really gets into semantics with religion, so sometimes religious aspects come into play with it because it has to do with a higher power. It really is, dependent on what you believe in, I don't know what I believe. I've always kind of described myself as agnostic, so I'm really on the fence about whether we have higher power or not. But it is something interesting to think about. If the ability to make choice is what makes us closer to God, do we get to delegate the choices in our life for ourselves, or is it already predetermined?
I want to hit on something that Drag said that's really cool, that good intentions pave the road to hell. That is I like that.
Yeah.
But the reason I wanted to bring that up is because I, in talking so far, have come to a bit of a, I guess, theory of what the creature is supposed to represent. I think that the creature is supposed to represent the hand of God, basically. Just as the crows or ravens that eat the liver of Prometheus each day, the creature acts in the same manner.
As like a divine kind of retribution against Victor?
Yes.
Yeah.
That the creature represents Victor's divine retribution. And so that makes a big debate on the rational faculty of the creature. Does the creature make their own choices, or
is this basically a work of God?
Is the creature being led through, quote unquote, God's channel to these actions with this seeming rational faculty of making these choices to hurt Victor in different ways and carry out revenge?
Yeah.
Or is it predetermined the creature was meant to do this?
I don't know.
That the creature was brought to life not by the act of Frankenstein, but by God as a punishment for Victor's attempts to break the chain.
I don't know, though. We haven't even, done any, close reading on the text so far, and we've been talking for, 40 minutes. But I at some point...
I believe fated free will is, yeah.
We don't have to necessarily do this right now, but, the creature's basically case of, him telling his little story is so fucking interesting. It's so interesting, and I'd love to look at that at some point. But we haven't even.
Now that we've set up a lot of the questions that we have, does anybody else have any questions they want to look at specifically? In our close readings.
Where's my novel?
Because we can look at anybody else's theories throughout this as well.
Just one thing I want to say before we start, diving into text. This version is on Gutenberg.org.
Yes.
It's free if you want to look at it. Want to, send the link to chat really quick. Free to look at. I believe Frankenstein's just public domain. You can look at it with us if you want.
If it's on Gutenberg, then it's public domain.
Yeah. This is, somewhat revised. The version that I have in front of me, a physical copy, is, Penguin Classics. It's revised. There might be some differences between.
We should talk about that really quick.
Yeah.
I found out that the reason there's so much debate over, Victor's wife being both his cousin and his adopted sister, he married his adopted sister cousin, is because in the original text in 1880, it was stated that she was his cousin. And then in the revised version, in 1831, she was stated to be his adopted sister. So, there is no right or wrong answer there. it, and much of the production now, the reason why there's confusion is because it's an amalgamation of the two editions.
Yeah.
Adopted sister, cousin, wife. Yeah.
Yeah, there might be some differences between the Gutenberg one and the one like that we have in front of us physically. Or if
it's squicky. Yeah, I like that word.
Yeah, it is squicky. It's just it's a product of its time. And that's I think like the big kind of confusion between revised versions. Other than that, the content is pretty much the same.
I mean,
I don't think there's too much different in terms of content.
Yeah. Edgar Allan Poe married his sister cousin, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
His second. Not his childhood friend, the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
oh, how the times have timed.
It's possible that a lot of this just comes from just mistranslations of language.
Maybe.
Like, these things meant they were used in different ways.
Well, also, in this particular thing,
this is more confirmed.
Well, it's also important to say that the reason why, like, or not the reason why, but part of the reason why they got married is because Victor's dying mother, that was, like, one of her last wishes.
Yeah.
Was for them to get married. And his mother dying is a huge fucking thing in this book. So we'll talk about that, but her basically dies, like, 17, and she's like, get married, and he's like, I'm gonna go to school. And he does. And they eventually get married, but he actually just goes to school, I believe.
Yeah. It also should be noted that, I believe in the text they're not actually... She's just some kid that the mom found and was like, I really like this little girl, and just bought her from the original mother. So, it's very much a terminology, but any way you look at it,
it's weird.
It's weird.
But, you know what? It is what it is.
So we went over the letters.
A little bit, yeah. Basically, these are letters, I believe to Walton's sister, I believe, too. They're out, basically on the frozen ice. This guy's on a boat and he's like, I have no friends. I'm talking to you. I'm lonely. Like, I'm heading off for a long time. And...
You know what? Hold on. Name makes an incredible point. It's okay because she had really pretty... And that made her more valuable than the other poor children.
No.
Thank you for pointing that legitimate line out. That she had such pretty hair that the mom couldn't just let the little girl be poor.
So yeah, this guy's basically out on the seas, on the frozen seas, and then all of a sudden this dude shows up. And this dude happens to be Victor.
Dude was dying.
He's dying, yeah. He's like on the brink of death. He's gone mad, basically. He shows up in the 4th letter. He shows up, and eventually, like, they have a little bit of a friendship, and then Victor's like, alright, I just went through horrors beyond my imagination. I will tell you. Yeah, there's a couple of different entries. Yeah. They're unfashioned, but half made up. One wiser, better, dearer than ourselves, such a friend ought to be. Not lend his aid to affectionate our weak, faulty nature. I once had a friend, the most noble of human creatures, and am entitled, therefore, to judge respecting friendship. You have hope in the world before you, and have no cause for despair. But I I have lost everything and cannot begin life anew. That's Victor saying. So he basically is like, I'm hopeless.
Yeah.
I love that line. So he starts telling his little story. Like, these strangers, they're basically strangers. Unhappy man, do you share my madness? Have you drunk also of the intoxicating draught? Hear me, let me reveal my tale, and you will dash the cup from your lips. Victor, I love the way Victor's. Alright. Then told me that he would commence his narrative the next day when I should be up. So, Victor starts telling his tale. He begins with, like, his basic childhood. His mother dies when he's 17. I want to really look at chapter 2. He was born in, Geneva, Germany, right? Not?
Either Germany or Switzerland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It might be.
A city in Switzerland.
Oh, okay.
It is the origin of the Geneva Conventions.
Okay, that's...
Which is very interesting, because I assume that if the Geneva Conventions looked at Victor Frankenstein, they'd say, what the fuck?
He broke the Geneva Conventions. Alright, here's the part about Elizabeth, actually.
Geneva is the headquarters of Europe's United Nations and the Red Cross. Global hub for diplomacy and banking. French imp.
This is the part about Elizabeth. My mother had much desire to have a daughter. When I was about 5 years old.
Geneva suggestions.
That's a good one.
Hold on. Adjusting the music. Alright, go ahead.
Yeah, so named is absolutely right. The mother, her hair was the brightest living gold, and despite the poverty of her clothing, seemed to set a crown of distinction on her head. Her brow was clear and ample, her blue eyes cloudless, and her lips and the molding of her face so expressive of sensibility and sweetness that none could behold her without looking on her as of a distinct species, a being heaven-sent, and bearing a celestial stamp in all her features. Yeah, so she's pretty. Yeah.
She's just pretty.
But she's in poverty. So yeah. She does essentially just inspire. Everyone loved Elizabeth's passionate and almost reverential attachment with which all regarded her, while I shared it my pride and delight. So yeah, they basically grow up. We called each other familiarly by the name of cousin. It's right there.
Yeah.
No word, no expression could body forth the kind of relation in which she stood to me. My more than sister, since till death she was to be mine only. Ooh.
So, it is very interesting. And that says a lot that many of these terms are probably misgivings as to how they were used before they were used today in modern times.
Oh, he was born in Naples. Okay, so he, like, considers himself from...
Yeah.
Naples. Okay. Sorry, that's my bad.
So, that really does put into question, Edgar Allan Poe's relationship with his sister cousin. Like, are they actually, or is this just how people refer to each other?
That might also just be, like, language change over time, too.
That's what I'm saying. But
because
this is not about Edgar Allan Poe.
They're not related by blood. It's still bizarre, it's still weird, it's still, they consider themselves family. And then, of course, when the mother dies, she's like, marry your cousin!
I was like, okay.
And then he leaves.
So
yeah, that's about Elizabeth. He has some other siblings. This is going into chapter 2 now. This is where chapter 2 is where we kind of start to see the... What would you call it? This is where we meet Henry Clairville.
Henry.
Who is Victor's best friend.
Shout out to Henry. Where are you?
Henry, my beloved. Henry is, Victor's best friend. Henry is a pretty important character in the novel, so keep him in the back of your mind. This is where we start to get the stuff about natural philosophy.
I'm a big fan of natural philosophy.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Where am I looking? My temper was sometimes violent and my passions vehement. And by some line, my turned not towards childish pursuits, but an eager desire to learn, and not to learn all things indiscriminately. I confess that neither the structure of languages, nor the codes of governments, nor the politics of various states possessed attractions for me. It was the secrets, this is important, it was the secrets of heaven and earth that I desired to learn, and whether it was outward substance of things, or the inner spirit of nature and the mysterious soul of man that occupied me. Still my inquiries were directed to the metaphysical, or in its higher sense, the physical secrets of the world.
So we have confirmation right from this, the get-go, chapter 2, that Victor Frankenstein's main goal is to blow up and act like he don't know nobody. Is to break his place on the chain of being.
No, yeah.
So we got that.
Yeah, like, and that, like, speaks to, of course, the pursuit of knowledge is a worthy cause.
Confirmed, lock it in, get ready to drop on Tomato Town.
The pursuit of knowledge is, you know, very much, respectable, something to do. Like, we want to be smart, we want to better ourselves, but there is, you know, breaking a limit. And this is it. This is from a young age. Yeah, and Clairville occupied himself, so to speak, with the moral relation of things. So him and Henry have a little bit of a different little avenues of life here. Clairville could aught ill etrench, could aught ill etrench on the noble spirit of tenderness amidst his passions for adventurous exploit. Not been so perfectly humane. I feel exquisite pleasure in dwelling in the recollections of childhood before misfortune had tainted my mind and changed its bright visions. My mind! Changed its bright visions of extensive usefulness into gloomy and narrow reflections upon self. Oh, I love the language in this book. I love the way it's written. And like, it just makes me happy. Love the way this is written. I love Victor's narrative voice. It's the way he talks. Natural philosophy is the genius that has regulated my fate. There's that word. I desire, therefore, in this narration, to state those facts which led to my predilection for that science. When I was 13 years of age, we all went on a party of pleasure to the vast near I chanced to find a volume of the works of Cornelius Agrippa. I opened it with apathy. The theory which he attempts to demonstrate and the wonderful facts which he relates soon changed this feeling into enthusiasm. A new light seemed to draw upon my mind, and bounding with joy, I communicated my discovery to my father. My father carelessly at the title page of my book and said, Cornelius Agrippa, my dear Victor, do not waste your time on this. It is sad trash. And Victor's like, fuck you. I do what I want.
Yeah. So, my line of thinking is that Victor himself has an expression of freedom, but that the creature is preordained with fate.
I don't know if I agree with you.
That's fine. That's the point.
You just say things so I argue with you.
No, that's what I'm thinking now.
I know.
Reviewing a lot of this. Can we jump to our chapter 5?
Can I actually just look at one thing in this chapter real quick before we do? It's the thing about the lightning.
Yes, okay.
So at the end of this chapter, when I was about 15 years, we witnessed a most violent and terrible thunderstorm. As I stood at the door on a sudden, I beheld a stream of fire issue from an old and beautiful oak which stood about 20 yards from our house, and so soon as the dazzling light vanished, the oak disappeared, and nothing remained but a blasted stump. When we visited it the next morning, we found the tree shattered in a singular manner. It was not splintered by the shock, but entirely reduced to thin ribbons of wood. I never beheld anything so utterly destroyed. Before this, I was not acquainted with the more obvious laws of electricity. On this occasion, a man of great research in natural philosophy was with us, and was excited by this catastrophe. He entered on the explanation of a theory which he had formed on the subject of electricity and galvanism, which was at once new and astonishing to me. All that he said threw greatly into the shade Cornelius Agrippa, Albertus Magnus, and Paracelsus. Paracelsus, the lords of my...
We should mention.
The lords of my imagination. That's an important word too, imagination. But by some fatality, the overthrow of these men disinclined me to pursue my accustomed studies. It seemed to me as if nothing would or could ever be known. All that had so long engaged my attention suddenly grew despicable. By one of these, I don't know that word, caprices, of the mind which we were perhaps most subject to in our early youth, I at once gave up my former occupations, set down natural history, all its prodigy, and as a deformed and abortive creation, and entertained the greatest disdain for a would-be science that would never even step within the threshold of real knowledge. In this mood of mine, I betook myself to the mathematics and the branches of study appertaining to that science as being built upon secure foundations and so worthy of my consideration. I find this part very interesting. It was a strong effort of the spirit of good, but it was ineffectual. Destiny was too potent, and her immutable laws had decreed my utter and terrible destruction. Last line of this chapter.
So, an interesting thing about Paracelsus, introduced, like, using minerals and chemicals into medicine, for the most part, and, I don't know, believed that arsenic was a cure to things.
Oh, awesome.
But, I had a little bit of confusion of what he did because of, Warehouse 13. I thought he was in pursuit of the Philosopher's Stone. But I don't think he actually was big into that concept of alchemy. But I just saw it. He believed that his approach to science was heavily influenced by his religious belief. He believed that science and religion were inseparable. That scientific discoveries were direct messages from God.
That's interesting.
So that plays into my theory of the creature acting as the hand of God.
That's interesting.
Believed it was mankind's divine duty to uncover and understand all of his message. Believed that virtues make up natural objects and not natural but supernatural, and exist God before the universe. Earth and heavens were eventually dissipate. I don't know. That's not as important. Yeah. Just the idea of God and science being inseparable.
So, move
to
on.
This text.
Yeah. In chapter 3, the mother dies. Elizabeth catches scarlet fever. The mother catches it. This is where she's like, expects, Elizabeth, my love, you must supply my place to my younger children. I'll, bye. I will endeavor to resign myself cheerfully to death and will indulge a hope of meeting you in another world. Alright, so she dies. Bye. And Victor's like, oh.
Chapter 4.
Yes, I just wanted to go over chapter 3.
Yeah. We're gonna want to hit on the really important chapters.
Yeah, sorry. Alright. So chapter 4 is where he starts putting his little thing together. With the death of his mother, being very much on his mind. You know, basically, I am not recording the vision of a madman. Funny stuff. So this is where he basically locks himself away and doesn't fucking see anyone, completely isolates, doesn't take care of himself, on the brink of death himself, he might as well be. He's working on his thing. Working on his experiment, with, you know, his pursuit of knowledge and whatnot. Where's the part, Summer months passed while I was thus engaged, heart and soul in one pursuit. It was the most beautiful season, never did the fields bestow a more plentiful, blah, 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 blah. My eyes were insensible to the charms of nature. The themes of being charmed by nature are important in this. The natural world.
Yeah.
Same feelings which made me neglect the scenes around me caused me also to forget those friends who were so many miles absent, whom I had not seen for a long time. I knew my silence disquieted them, and while I remembered the words of my father, I know that while you are pleased with yourself, you will think of us with affection. We shall hear regularly from you. Spoiler alert, they don't. You must pardon me if I regard any interruption in your correspondence as a proof that your other duties are equally neglected. Then, he's like, pale, he doesn't eat, he don't take care of himself, probably don't shower very much. And this, you know, plays to the theme of isolation. He isolates himself and just completely envelops himself in his work. It forgets the natural world, the beauty of the natural world, forgets his friends, forgets his family, disregards all of them, solely in his one pursuit, and doesn't really break it. And he knows it. He starts to recognize, like, wow, I'm really a hermit that doesn't see people. My eyeballs were starting from their sockets in attending the details of my employment. The dissection room and the slaughterhouse furnished many of my materials, and often did my human nature turn with loathing from my occupation. Whilst urged on by an eagerness which perpetually increased, I brought my work near a conclusion. He starts to, like, I hate doing this. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Does it anyway. You know when artists are like, I hate drawing? He's an artist that hates to draw. Hyperfixation, yeah. I hate art. I do it anyway. My cheek had grown pale with study, and my person had become emaciated with confinement. And this is up here. I failed. Yet still clung to the hope with the next day or the next hour might realize. So, yeah. He's going full hog. Full hog. What? I'm right.
Full hog.
Full hog.
You mean whole hog?
Full hog. No cap. So yeah. My father made no reproach in his letters and only took notice of my silence by inquiring into my occupations more particularly than before. Winter, summer, spring. Winter, spring, summer passed during my labors. So he does this for almost a year. Yeah.
He does this for a while. Frankenstein takes place over a very long period of time.
Because, and we'll get into this, after he makes the creature, he falls ill for, like, what, 6 months?
Yeah.
And then he falls ill again for, like, another 6 months later. There's a lot
there will be entire years that pass within, like, a paragraph.
Yeah. Well,
especially during the end, there are years that pass in single chapters.
Yeah, it's an easy way to just jump ahead in time,
yeah.
You know? A simple, many months passed, you know? That usually does the trick. And, like, usually considering the circumstances, we suspend our disbelief, you know? So, long ass time. Until he finally does it in November. Brings us to chapter 5 of volume 1. This is where we get the first look at what this thing is.
The letters themselves take place over the span of 10 months.
So Victor, well, he comes in at the end.
Yeah. the writing of the letters take place over the span.
You think the time skip in Dog's Cast was a lot? Try, like, 10 months. Well, actually, that was a year. But that's the only time skip. Everything else is pretty chronological.
I'm gonna look into Frankenstein.
I'm sorry I'm doing a lot of just reading the text, but the language is so gorgeous to me. And I just want you guys to hear some of it. And as well as, like, highlighting certain details in the text without you guys having to go and read it yourself. So, November, with an anxiety that almost amounted to agony, I collected my instruments of life around me, and I might infuse a spark of being into that lifeless thing that lay at my feet. 1 in the morning, raining, candle nearly burnt out. I saw the dull yellow eye of the creature open. It breathed hard, and a convulsive motion agitated. How can I describe my emotions at this catastrophe, or how delineate the wretch whom with such infinite pains and care I had endeavored to form? His limbs were in proportion, and I had selected his features as beautiful. Beautiful! Great God! His yellow skin scarcely covered the work of muscles and arteries beneath. His hair was of a lustrous black and flowing. His teeth of pearly whiteness, and these luxuriancies only formed a more horrid contrast with his watery eyes that seemed almost of the same color as the dun-white sockets in which they were set, shriveled complexion and straight black lips. The different accidents of life are not so changeable as the feelings of human nature. This is what we start to get into, which is something seen quite often in Gothic literature, the idea of the uncanny.
Look at it in a different tab.
This goes to the idea of the uncanny. The uncanny is a word that might be kind of, what would I say, maybe misconstrued in a modern take. Uncanny basically refers to something that's so either lifelike or like close to realism, so close enough that it's just off enough, and there's like an uncanny valley where if something looks a certain way, it, kind of, triggers a sort of unnerving kind of response. It's just off enough that we are unsettled by it. And they're showing an image right now.
No, it's not on screen.
I can see it though, and that's definitely. This is a recreation, but it's very different from what you might see. It's still grotesque. It's still very grotesque. It's just not the things we think of. Like, it doesn't have the screws in the head.
Yeah.
It's not the green. The square head. No, he's got, like, full head of hair, yellow skin. He's huge. He's in proportion, but he's huge. He's made up of an amalgamation of dead body parts.
Yeah.
He is, not pretty look at. Appreciating the language used in a text is something that English classes never taught me to do. Yeah, I love the language and you gotta look at, like, hearing the language sometimes. That goes for a lot of things. But this book in particular, just, yeah. So, he's ugly. I had worked hard for nearly 2 years. The sole purpose of infusing life into an inanimate body, deprived himself rest. Now I had finished, the beauty of the dream vanished, and breathless horror and disgust filled my heart.
I just want to say, Frankenstein's monster book accurate reminds me very much of,
Paranorman.
Yeah, Paranorman, Judge Hopkins. Do you see it?
A little bit.
There's there's some similar ideas going on here. Which, oh, this was sold in 2015.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I guess they auctioned off the animation puppets.
Huh.
I didn't know that. That's very interesting. Bonk. Bonk. I looked, and it's believed that the portion of the creation to Victor's death is about 8.
Really? That's longer than I thought. I knew it was a long time. Just wow. Imagine 8 years of being like hounded by like, and it's not just I made this horrible thing. It's also the reminder of like he was starting to do this because he wanted his mom back.
Yeah.
And like he's being hounded by his mother. Too. The thoughts like he's having nightmares about her too. And then eventually so many other people die. And how that fucking follows you, man, you know? Here it is. This paragraph. So yeah, he's being hounded by not just this thing, but everything else in his life. I thought I saw Elizabeth in the bloom of health walking in the streets. Delighted and surprised, I embraced her. But as I imprinted the first kiss on her lips, they became livid with the hue of death. Her features appeared to change, and I thought that I held the corpse of my dead mother in my arms. A shroud enveloped her form, and I saw grave worms crawling in the folds of the flannel. I started from my sleep with horror. A cold dew covered my forehead, my teeth chattered, every limb became convulsed. When by the dim and yellow light of the moon, as it forced its way through the window shutters, I beheld the wretch, the miserable monster whom I had created. He held up the curtain of the bed, and his eyes, if eyes they may be called, were fixed on me. His jaws open, and he muttered some inarticulate sounds, while a grin wrinkled his face. Ah! No mortal could support the horror of that countenance.
I'm looking for a specific... Okay. Where is this?
This is in his story.
Chapter 10. Okay. I want to touch on that when we get there.
That's when he shows up and talks to Victor for the first
Yes.
time. I didn't remember that he actually said that.
We'll get there. Because that actually supports. Okay.
New. So Victor's terrified. He runs to... Not his father's house, no. He runs to... somewhere. I forget. And he's like, I never want to see this thing again. And then he's gonna go to his father's. Hey, Rapture! Huh? Rapture. Sorry.
Are we chapter 5?
We were in chapter 5.
Okay. Apologize.
He goes to Henry. That's who he goes to.
Yeah.
He goes to Henry, and then he's gonna go to his father's. We don't need to go over all of this. This is a letter from Elizabeth. There's his teacher. So he doesn't want to tell anyone about this. He's gonna be like, y'all are gonna think I'm off my whack out of my gourd. He gets a letter from his father. This is where he finds out that
William is dead.
William is dead. William is
Youngest
brother. Yep. Okay. So he's gonna go see his father, and then all of a sudden his youngest brother dies. He goes, and they think that this girl named Justine did it. Justine is a member of the family who was, I believe, out of the picture for a while, and then 6 years. Holy shit! It's right. Sorry, Justine shows up. She's related to the family. They think she did it because there is a portrait of the mother, I believe, on William's person.
It's 6 years since he left for school.
Oh, whoops! I'm stupid. There's a portrait on William's person, of, I believe, the mother. Mother. No, it's not. Hold on, I need to drink water. My throat hurts. No, it is the picture of the mother.
No, it stood at the fireplace. Picture of the mother.
What did he had a portrait on his person?
Yes.
That was found on Justine, which is why they think she did.
Yeah.
Is my point.
If I'm remembering right, William was saved by the creature?
No, he later admits that he does kill him.
No, originally was... The creature saved somebody else.
It's the little girl in the woods.
It's the little girl in the woods, yeah.
No, he actually kills him, though.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I found the girl in the woods, and the guy shoots him. And he's
Yeah.
like, I hate humanity. And then he kills him by strangling him.
To get to Victor.
Yep.
That's why my belief is that the creature is meant to represent the hand of God punishing, is because the creature is led, or not led, but commits all these acts that specifically torture him. And it could be Frankenstein's choice, not Frankenstein, the creature's choice to punish Victor for everything. He learns William's last name being Frankenstein and recalls, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Because
he says, I think he mentions Alphonse, who is father, actually. But the Frankenstein name is...
Yeah. I just believe that a lot of the actions made by the creature are driven by quote unquote God. Not that, like, you know, out of the analysis of I'm probably agnostic as well, but just in the context of this and its literary implications, I believe that the creature is acting out of fate and God's channel to punish Victor, just like the crows that punish Prometheus. And that, yes, has the illusion of free choice, but that sort of free choice can only be granted by God, and Victor, not God. Victor attempts to be God and grant free will, but instead, God intervenes and grants instead a divine retribution, punishment, for attempting to break the place in the chain.
So, just to jump ahead, Justine is accused of the murder. She is executed for the murder.
Yep, pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly. She admits to it. She tells Elizabeth and Victor that she didn't do it, but she could, like, basically, like, I did it, you know, like...
I took the boots.
I took the boots. She dies. And then, now we're starting to get into Volume 2, which is where, I don't know how much time passes. But what happens is Victor basically takes a moment and be like, I need to get a breath of fresh air. And he just goes out into the woods. He goes out into the woods, goes out into the mountains, and just...
He goes on a vacation.
Yeah, I would call it
It's summarized as him going on a vacation.
Yeah.
To the mountains.
And this is where we get that idea of, like, nature is healing.
Does he go to Mont Blanc here? Because I found that is a interesting reference. Yes.
Right there. He could go live in the woods for a bit.
Well, Mary Shelley's husband, Percy Shelley, actually wrote a poem called Mont Blanc. While they were in that area. So she was likely writing this while actually seeing these locations herself.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of these descriptions are so beautiful, is because
it's real.
It's verbatim.
Yeah.
It's what she's directly seeing herself.
Yeah, we can't read all of this, but if you want to go look at, like, chapters 9 and 10, some of the imagery here is absolutely astounding. And, like, again, this is, like, playing to the idea of nature has the ability to heal us. It's interesting that it parallels directly to, like, chapter 4, when he's isolated and doesn't get that heal from nature, during the, like, beautiful season. And now, he's still isolated. He goes off by himself. Nature was a common theme in this era of literature. Yep, it was. It absolutely was. And you see it, right?
And now it does not.
No.
Nature is dying.
Nature is dying. But during this, yes. Some of these descriptions are absolutely... However, when he goes off to live in the woods for a bit, he encounters something.
I like look for things while you're scrolling, and then you just go.
Well,
Boom,
I'm
boom,
looking
boom.
for things too. This is where he runs into the creature. Now, it's important to note that
Control F.
I don't know how much time has passed.
Yeah.
But there's the mention of Paradise Lost. A lot of time has passed, and the creature has learned a lot. He tells his whole story. He learns a shit ton. This thing can eloquently speak, is incredibly agile and strong, and just has this such this presence that him and Victor are able to have a conversation, and the creature is like, "You made me this way!"
Yeah.
But I've learned so much.
The "you made me this way" is very important. We can't just gloss over that, because it is, remember that I am thy creature, I ought to be thy Adam.
But
I am the fallen angel.
Yep.
I am the hand of God. It's right there. In more words and veiled behind almost poetry, but it is essentially saying, I am the hand of God. I was meant to be your greatest work, but now I am the fallen angel. I am Lucifer. I am your punishment. I am the hand of God. Who needs nature to heal when you have critically acclaimed title Red Dead Redemption 2 by Rockstar Games? What? I don't have that.
So, yeah. What?
What are you thinking? After seeing that.
The reason I am still not entirely convinced is because of what the creature says in his recounting of the story.
Okay.
So, he basically says, "You will listen to me. I've learned many things.
You will listen. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. I relieve thee, thus I take thee from, thou canst listen to me and grant me thy compassion. By this place is not fitting for your fine sensations. Come to the hut upon the mountain. Whether I quit forever the neighborhood of men and lead a harmless life, or become the scourge of your fellow creatures and the author of your own speedy ruin. Your own.
Or own. The punishment.
But that's also him saying, you did this, if you did not wish to reap, why did you sow? I'm not, this is him trying to be like, I'm not the cause of your downfall, you are the cause of your own.
Yeah.
Because of how you react to me.
Yeah.
So, this is when he starts to tell a story. It starts with chapter 11.
I just... Where's the Frankenstein Splatfest? Divine retribution versus your own punishment. Versus Thousand Wasps.
Reap, sow, or die. Big man chooses team die. Anyway, So, and this is why I pay attention to the language so much, because the creature talks differently than Victor does.
Yeah.
And it's for a reason. He basically finds this little family. There's Felix, Agatha, and Old Man DeLacy. I don't think he given a first name. Old Man DeLacy is blind, and Felix and Agatha are his kids. I don't think there's a mother.
I gotta say, when I was first reading this last year, I happened to somehow miss paragraph describing what the creature looks like, other than beautiful. I got the beautiful bits somehow, but I didn't get, like, the horrifying descriptors. And plus, the Penguin Classic version of Frankenstein has a real handsome dude on it. So I'm thinking this whole time, until recently,
well, he's a little
until like a couple days ago, that the creature was actually just gorgeous. So I'm like, man, these people just think that the creature's so gorgeous that they're repulsed.
Well, it's the uncanny too.
Yeah.
Because there are beautiful aspects to him. He's got the gorgeous hair.
Yeah.
It's just that, and like, if you really look at this cover, you will see that it's a little off. Look at his eyes.
Yeah.
You look at it like real quick and you're like, oh, that's a dude. And then you take a look, you know.
It very much reminds me of is it the painting of Lucifer?
You're right, yeah, the Lucifer painting, I know exactly. That one's actually just gorgeous.
Yeah.
That one's a gorgeous painting.
I would love to play Red Dead on that topic. I have heard that it's very pretty and a lot of fun things in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway.
Alright.
Chapter 11.
This is when he starts to tell it. Sorry for burp. Felix, Agatha, Old Man DeLacy. It is important to know that Old Man DeLacy is blind.
Yes.
So basically, the creature lives in this little hut.
It's like a chicken coop.
Yeah.
He builds like a chicken coop.
For a long ass time. He steals their food for a bit, and this is when it starts to get interesting. He feels guilt. He starts to realize, because, like, he's learning from this family, basically. Yeah, Old Man DeLacy, father, girl was called sister, or Agatha, and the youth, Felix, brother or son. He starts to, basically he becomes an empath. He starts to kind of feel the things that they feel. I spent the winter in this manor. The gentle manners and beauty of the cottagers greatly endeared them to me. When they were unhappy, I felt depressed. When they rejoiced,
it's like watching a sitcom.
Yeah. I sympathized with their choice. I saw few human beings beside them, and if any other happened to enter the cottage, their harsh manners and rude gait only enhanced me the superior accomplishments of my friends. So, he starts to really sympathize with this family. He realizes that when he was taking their food, that they were losing their food, so he stops doing it.
Yeah.
And this is where the idea of morality really starts to come in, because we're, up until this point, and also because of, modern media, interpretations of Frankenstein, we are led to believe that this monster is a monster, and in and of itself follows that definition of monster, in that monsters have no morals, monsters are cruel, monsters hurt us.
Yeah.
And this is where we start to see, no, this is a creature who wants a friend, and goes to the idea back to Walton.
Yeah.
Wanting a friend. But the difference is the way he's composed. So he learns so much because they have, Saifi is her name. She is, a refugee from Turkey. And she learns English. I think she's supposed to be engaged to Felix.
Yeah.
But she's a refugee from Turkey, and as she learns English, so does he. Where's the part about Paradise Lost? She's supposed to stay with them. Yeah, this is where he starts reading. What? I love yeah. The creature read Paradise Lost, and like everyone related to the protagonist, the creature feels forsaken by his creator, much like Lucifer in Paradise Lost. It's not even just relating to it. That's why I wanted to find the passage where he talks about it, because he says something very important about Paradise.
You can type it in the little thing I have right there.
Well, I can't. P-A-R. Paradise Lost, please.
No, there's a second instance. There's a little arrow. This is the one you're looking for. Yeah.
He thinks it's real, too, though. He doesn't have that, like, suspension of disbelief. But Paradise Lost excited... different and far deeper emotions. I read it as I read other volumes which had fallen into my hands as a true history. He thinks this actually happened. Yeah. It moved every feeling of wonder and awe that the picture of an omnipotent God warring with his creatures was capable of exciting. I often referred several situations as their similarity struck me to my own. Like Adam, I was apparently united by no link to any other being in existence. This state was far different from mine in every other respect. He had come forth from the hands of God. That's interesting.
The hand of God.
He had come forth from the hands of God, a perfect creature. That's where I think we're getting different now. A perfect creature, happy and prosperous, guided by and a special care of his creator. He was allowed to converse with and acquire knowledge from beings of superior nature. But I was wretched, helpless, and alone. Many times I considered Satan as the fitter emblem of my condition, for often like him, when I viewed the bliss of my protectors, bitter gall of envy rose within.
Okay, so see, there is a lot of question of if angels have free will. That is a huge thing. And refers to himself as a fallen angel, relates to Lucifer. You can argue that Lucifer is God's own punishment against his actions. Lucifer is the hand of God acting against the God.
Because it brings about the question of, if God is omnipotent, God knows everything.
Then he knew...
Then he should have known that Lucifer was going to betray. Or did he? That it brings about that question, right? So, did Lucifer betray as an act of free will, or was it predetermined? His God should have known it already. And that's where also religion and free will and fate kind of mix together, because God knows everything. If omnipotent is the word we use to describe God, meaning all-knowing of everything, meaning everything, including things that have not happened yet, correct?
If God can create anything, then he can create a rock that he cannot lift. But if he cannot be omnipotent, or he cannot be all-powerful if he cannot lift a rock. It leads to a never-ending cycle.
It's a paradox.
Yeah.
Cycle! Anyway.
Cycle!
Yeah, the Paradise Lost thing is very important. But, he learns other things too. The Paradise Lost is the most important, I think. This is in chapter 15. He hasn't shown himself to them yet. He's learning as they do. He's learning not just literature, but he's learning, compassion and understanding. He's learning, for lack of a better term, how to be a person. In a very, kind of distant sort of way. Learning how to be a person. Learning literature, he's learning history, he's learning about the world, geography. Safety's there. And eventually, he's like, you know what? These are my friends. He's watched them for a long-ass time. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna show myself to them. He shows himself to Old Man DeLacy first. Remember that he is blind. Old Man DeLacy... Yeah, this is where it is. Okay. So he gets over his fears and is like, they will accept me. Because he's learned compassion and understanding, but he has not learned... He's learned cruelty already, but I don't think he's at a point where he's like, alright, these people are so kind, there's no way they can... Probably a part where he says it, I just probably can't find it. Okay, here we go. I'm not gonna read this whole thing, but there's a couple of lines in this. The more I saw of them, the greater became my desire to claim their protection and kindness, because he sees them as kind people. My heart yearned to be known and loved by these amiable creatures, to see their sweet looks directed towards me with affection, utmost limit of my ambition. I dared not to think that they would turn them from me with disdain and horror. The poor that stopped at their door were never driven away. I asked, it is true, for greater treasures than a little food or rest. I required kindness and sympathy, but I did not believe myself utterly unworthy of it. So he's like, I'm a good guy. I have been, my father basically abandoned me. My father, Victor, I have no family. I've been living out of this hovel, I believe it's called, a hovel next to this little house that these guys live in. They will accept me for who I am.
I made a poll.
Jer made a poll.
And we'll go over the results
at the start of next week's.
On Twitter.com.
Yeah.
We made a poll.
The poll is basically, what's your opinion? Does Frankenstein's creature have free will or follow fate? Does he choose to punish Victor on his own, or does he act as divine retribution and punishment?
So we go front door of the cottage. It's only DeLacy, the blind man. My children are from home, and as I am blind, I am afraid I shall find it difficult to protect food for you. And the creature and DeLacy hang out. They hang out. He's in their house, and things are fine. Because DeLacy can't see him. But then everyone comes home. And this is very quick. This is and DeLacy's like, if you're a good guy, like, even if you really were criminal, for that you can only drive you to desperation and not instigate virtue. I am also unfortunate. And the creature's like crying, like, thank you so much for showing me kindness, like, oh my god. And then Felix and them come home.
Yeah.
May I know the names and residence of those friends? I paused. This, I thought, was the moment of decision, which was to rob me of or bestow happiness on me forever. I struggled vainly for firmness to answer him. The efforts destroyed all my remaining strength. I sat on the chair and sobbed aloud. At that moment, I heard the steps of my younger protectors. I had not a moment to lose, but seizing the hand of the old man, I cried, now is the time. Save and protect me. You and your family are the friends who I seek. Do not desert me in my hour of trial. Great God, who are you? So, they see him and they think he's attacking him.
Yeah.
At the instant the cottage door was opened and Felix, Safi, and Agatha entered, who can describe their horror and concern? I can't even speak, I'm so enraptured. Consternation on beholding me. Agatha fainted, and Safi, unable to... I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. That's my guess.
I think it might be Safi.
Safi, unable to attend her friend, rushed out of the cottage. Felix darted forward, and with supernatural force tore me from his father, to whose knees I clung. In a transport of fury, he dashed me to the ground and struck me violently with a stick. I could have torn him limb from limb as the lion rends the antelope, but my heart sank within me with a bitter sickness, and I refrained. I saw him on the point of repeating his blow when, overcome by pain and anguish, I quitted the cottage, and in general tumult escaped unperceived my hovel. My heart sank with a bitter sickness, and I refrained. I don't think this guy is a monster. This is akin to a man that has learned kindness and just wants to be shown it in return.
Yeah.
And I just think this is a testament to how human nature reacts when it is abused. Because when we receive so much abuse, so much torment, so much, whatever, we start to develop a sort of, not just a thick skin, but it shows how far we can be pushed before we snap. And obviously, this creature is so... He knows what he looks like, he knows he's different. I don't think he's gotten this sort of violent sort of treatment yet, because Victor doesn't attack him. Victor runs, and, people run from him, but this is where we start to see him getting attacked. Felix attacks him, and beats him violently with a stick, and then the guy in the woods, in the chapter after, shoots him with a gun!
Yeah.
But he doesn't fight back.
So, this is an interesting point I want to make. Frankenstein's creature only commits atrocities related to who?
Victor.
Victor. It's only to people connected to Victor.
I think it's... But he does vow it against all humanity. At one point. After the guy shoots him in the... I think the shoulder or something. I want to find it, actually. Let me,
The only atrocities we ever see committed have some negative repercussion to Victor. Even the one later in the story, when there is somebody found dead in Ireland, and they take Victor prisoner and try him for that murder.
Well, it's because it's Henry.
It is
Henry.
He gets tried for that murder. It's all things that negatively repercuss against Victor. But the creature cannot bring himself to commit violence against another human unless it relates to Victor.
My question is this then. If you think this novel turned out differently, if the creature lived and Victor still died, do you think the creature would retire?
I don't think the creature could have lived.
You don't? I'm
No.
just saying hypothetically.
It's...
I'm playing devil's advocate.
No, at the very end, it says, he is dead, so I am dead too. His entire purpose is to be retribution.
That's true, yeah.
Without
Trying to
the subject of his disdain, he has no reason to live.
Ooh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, where's the, funny.
Control F.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find. No.
Ow! It's loading more instantly.
I will load more instances. Oh, I thought it was around here. I could be wrong. I don't know. I thought there was a point where, he basically vows, fuck you.
No, he does. But then he can't act on it.
Yeah.
He
Okay,
never acts any violence against anybody
unless it relates to Victor.
Starting to...
He makes that vow against humanity, but he can't keep
Okay.
it.
So basically, rest of his story is, he finds a little girl in the woods and he tries to help her too. This is when he's running away from the cottage. Little girl is a little freaked out by him, but I think I don't even know if it's her father. I think it's just a dude. Sees him doing this and fucking shoots him. And is like, leave that girl alone. I'm guessing it's her father. I don't entirely remember. And then he runs towards, not Geneva, is it? But basically he finds William. Yes. Hideous monster, let me go. My papa, he is M. Frankenstein. He will punish you. It's the name, yep. Okay. You shall be my first victim. Ah! So he kills William, and he hits it right there.
Yeah.
And that's basically his story, unless someone wants us to look at something else particular in his recounting. We're already almost at 2 o'clock, so I think we should go a little longer.
I was gonna say, do you want to go a little longer, or do you want to split this into 2 halves?
What do you guys want?
Yeah. Audience, do you want us to keep going, or do you want to split this into 2 episodes?
We're about, end of volume 2, and we haven't touched volume 3 yet. We can either finish up volume 2 and call it there, or we can finish volume 2 and then call it, and then do volume 3 next week.
Yeah. That would...
Or we could go longer, I meant.
Yeah. That would...
We'd probably go for another hour.
Yeah. Or we could come back later tonight.
I guess we could.
We could take a break for a bit, and then we come back.
Because I gotta do some stuff for school and stuff. What would you guys like us to do? We're gonna finish volume 2 and kind of talk about the end of volume 2 here. It's just a matter of, do you want us to put volume 3 in the next hour? Come back later? Could do it tonight. We're supposed to be doing Cask of Amontillado next week with a short story. Right?
Yeah, we'd have to pull one out of the schedule.
Yeah, we're asking, do you want us to do a 2-parter, or do you want us to just go longer?
I mean, coming back later tonight isn't a bad idea.
I'm just asking what people want.
Yeah.
We're at about chapter 17 out of, like, what, 20-something? I don't know. But, what works better for y'all? I don't mind either. I just, I like when things are a good thing.
Don't want to cut you away. Oh, Cask of Amontillado. I don't want to cut either.
No.
Do we want to keep going for now? Alright, does everybody still in good time for
I don't
or does
mind going
anybody
longer.
need to go do anything that coming back later would work? This is also going to be in the VOD, so hi VOD.
Hi, VOD. Hi, YouTube. Sorry. We should have planned to do this longer anyway because it is longer. I don't mind going longer. Pickle Bear. Oh,
Tweeting
you're
my thoughts.
responding to
Yes.
the poll. I need to get breakfast and I'm watching on my phone, so I don't need to. Hi, VOD.
Alright, so why don't we keep going?
Keep going. Just be a longer VOD.
Yeah, we'll just focus on more pieces of our actual, like, our debate right now is the free will versus fate. So, we should highlight those very important moments.
End of chapter, end of volume 2, he's basically like, make me a lady. And Victor's like, okay, I don't want to, but I will. And this is where the creature starts to hound him even further.
Yeah.
The part with, like, Felix and the DeLacy's always stuck with me.
Yeah.
As to, like, the creature's humanity and morality. Because we don't get that in most interpretations, and this is the original, you know? We get this monster who kills people, who cannot speak,
Yeah.
who is, like, only functioning as, like, a powerhouse of muscle. And we don't get that intelligence. He is so intelligent.
Yeah.
The more you talk about it, the more I kind of believe you about the Hand of God. I just... For Victor in particular, though. You know?
It's Victor's punishment.
Because he has such a love of humanity while he's with the DeLacy. And it makes him forget about all the horrible things that Victor said, you know? It's so sad. No one talks about how fucking sad this book is, you know? It's so incredibly sad. How he judged on that monstrous look. But I don't think he's a monster himself. I think he dealt the wrong cards. And he kind of has like the Richard III of, if you make me a monster, I will become it.
Yeah.
And that's what Victor does. I guess I hadn't realized that it really is just about Victor and not about humanity itself.
Yeah.
I thought that, you know, Pledge Against Humanity was in here somewhere.
But it's a pledge against Victor.
It's a pledge against... My face hurts. Can you talk for a bit?
Alright, can you scroll down and find, what is it? Chapter 2, we did 5 through 9, Volume 3, Chapter 3. Whatever that one is.
Is this where he tries to... This might be where Henry dies.
Volume 3.
It's the chapters are set up different for our physical copy.
Abandons the work.
Right, he starts making the lady.
Yeah, and he abandons it.
I'm not gonna be...
Ugh. Here it is.
I just like, just type in the first word, or the first sentence. I sat in the... Hold on. I sat one evening in my laboratory. There we go. Chapter 20!
Chapter 20.
So he agrees, starts making it, and he's like...
He's currently in England. Yeah.
Yep.
He goes there to try and get away from his family so that the creature cannot hurt his family.
He starts to have doubts.
Yeah.
He's like, what if they don't like each other?
Yeah.
What if they're not friends?
What if she's worse as well?
What if I can fix him? I can make her worse.
Yeah.
And then he's like, but what if they do like each other and they have kids? And then there's more of them, you know?
But the creature does say that with the mate...
That he would leave everyone alone. He says that they'd move
go
to South America.
Yeah. And go live in the rainforest.
If you give me a wife, I will live in South America. And Victor's like, yes, please. But then he starts having these doubts. What if they don't like each other? What if it gets worse? Or worse, what if they do like each other and they have children and then there's a race of Frankensteinlings? I don't want that at all. I don't care if it's in South America. It's not right. So he throws the remains in the fucking ocean, I believe. And the creature's like, why did you do that?
The creature says, you are my creator, but I am your master. Obey.
Interesting.
This continues to push my belief that, Frankenstein gave form to the creature, but God gave life, and is meant to be the punishment. Because you can argue that the crows that eat away at Prometheus are his master, are the master of his fate at this point. The only thing that Prometheus gets to do is have his liver eaten.
Just like you.
Yes. The only thing that the creature and God will allow Frankenstein to do is to create. But Victor chooses his rational faculty. He chooses to abandon it, and in turn becomes punished.
Okay. You're saying that Victor has free will, but the creature doesn't?
Yes.
Because a lot of people are like, one or the other, we all have it or nothing. It's very all or nothing. No, I'm not saying you think this.
Yeah.
It's just flying in the face of what everyone else
God
thinks.
can grant free will. Rational faculty is the spark of life.
So you're saying
Victor
that free
attempts
will
to be God, but cannot grant the rational faculty. It is a facsimile. And fate is the facsimile of rational faculty.
But if it's all or nothing.
No. That's dumb. It's not
So
all
you're
or
saying
nothing.
that free will is like the VIP pass?
Yeah. Free will is granted by God.
So you're saying that there are some people that are God touched. Now, would that makes them above other people, wouldn't it?
Isn't that exactly what Victor Frankenstein tries to do?
But why would God grant Victor Frankenstein free will? If he knows what's going to come of it.
God grants people free will.
No, you're saying that there's
I'm saying that God grants people free will. Victor attempts to be God, but cannot grant the entirety of the spark.
You're using some Kavian psycho terms.
I am, and I can't even talk about it. But it's the idea that humans cannot recreate rational faculty except by, having kids. And so Victor cannot create that spark of life, so instead is granted a facsimile. And the facsimile is taken by God to give the creature the purpose of divine punishment.
So creature is not people.
Creature is not at the same point.
Okay. Alright. Yeah.
However, I do think that the creature is of a higher chain.
Really?
Yeah.
Because
if angels
he's
do not have
functioning
free
as an
will,
angel.
if angels don't have free will but to be the hand of God, and the creature acts as the hand of God, then the creature is an angel.
You're starting to fry my brain now. You know what? I'm gonna argue with you. Just say no. No, I agree with you, yeah. I don't feel like arguing with you. I just think the it's... Yeah.
But over the course, he only targets those close to Victor.
But then we're getting into, like, what is morality? Because he's just killing people who... The deaths of those people obviously are to torment Victor. But he does not consider that those people are... Like, Henry's just hanging out. You know? Elizabeth didn't make him. Henry didn't make him. William was like a 5-year-old.
One of the
What
things is...
What is morality, then? Because he used to love humanity so much because of the DeLacy's. And then killing. Counter argument, raw. No, I think you're right. It's an interesting conversation. Henry's just hanging out. He's his best buddy. Best friend.
I recently
These
read
are the
this.
letters.
These are the end. This is the end.
Okay, so basically just a Henry dies. Creature kills him. Elizabeth dies. Creature kills her. And Victor's like, I'm gonna run off into the Arctic and find you and kill you. And it's basically, that's a long time. It's a couple of years.
Yeah.
And that's when Victor ends up on the boat with Walton. And then at the end, Victor's like, I'm gonna get him. And then we resume Walter's. Because then Victor's like, and now I'm here.
Yeah.
So we begin Walter's. He's the true narrator in reality. Walter's letters to his sister. Damn, I died.
Okay. So, where we are right now, Victor is dead.
Victor already died.
Victor is already dead.
Dies on the boat.
And, because our main focus right here is the free will versus fate of the creature. I'm getting hungry.
Your stomach is doing
Can
shit.
you hear that?
Yeah.
We get to the point where Walton is having a conversation with the creature. You who call Frankenstein your friend seem to have a knowledge of my crimes and his misfortunes, but in the detail which he gave you of them, he could not sum up the hours and months of misery I endured wasting in passion. For while I destroyed his hopes, I did not satisfy my own desires. That's important. It's a compel. Creature is compelled to these actions.
Yeah, because that's not what he was not created to. He was not created to torment Victor.
Yeah.
It was just the cause and effect.
For while I destroyed his hopes, I did not satisfy my own desires. For
he wanted friends.
Yeah, they were forever ardent and craving. Still, I desired love and fellowship, and I was still spurned. Was there no injustice to this? Am I to be thought only criminal when all humankind sinned against me? Why do you not hate Felix, who drove his friend from the door? Why do you not execrate the rustic who sought to destroy the savior of his child? Nay, these are virtuous and immaculate beings. I am the miserable and abandoned. I am an abortion to be spurned at, kicked, trampled on, and now my blood boils at the recollection of justice. It is true that I am a wretch. I have murdered the lovely and helpless. I strangled the innocent as they slept and grasped death his throat, who never injured me or any other living. I have devoted my creator, the select specimen of all that is worthy of love and admiration among men, to misery. I have pursued him even to that irredeemable ruin. Irremediable. Anyway. There he lies, white and cold in death. You hate me, but your abhorrence cannot equal that which I regard myself. I look on to the hands which have executed the deed. Doesn't say I look at my hands. I look at the hands.
I think that's also a dehumanization of himself.
Yeah. I think on the heart in which the imagination of it was conceived, and long for the moment when these hands will meet my eyes, when that imagination will haunt my fears no more. And he continues to go on and describe the regret of doing that, of the killings. And in my mind, that's basically the creature admitting that he was compelled to these actions. That he says, I did not want to do this.
Yeah.
But I was driven to this.
It's the you made me a villain, I'm gonna become it sort of thing.
But in this, he says that he's driven by Frankenstein to commit these acts against him. He's driven by Victor to commit these acts against him. If Victor is his god, he's his creator,
Father,
then
in different ways, the creature is meant to act as the hand of God against God, like Lucifer against God.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, farewell, I leave you, and the last of humankind whose eyes will ever behold, farewell, Frankenstein.
He jumps in the ocean, right?
He goes out the window and gets on an ice raft, and then goes to the wave and was lost in the darkness. He says that he will build himself a pyre. I shall ascend my funeral pyre triumphantly and exult in the agony of the torturing
He's gonna light
flames.
himself on fire!
Yeah, he kills himself.
Yeah.
Now that the deed is done, the act of retribution is complete, my purpose is gone. He could have chosen to retire.
But do you think that
But I don't think he had the choice because Victor died.
Do you think that if it's because Victor culminated that for him, though? Because that wasn't his original intention. He wanted buddies. It is Victor that made that impossible for him.
Yeah.
So do you think that...
A lot of my statements are a bit contradictory to each other, but, I mean, a lot of analysis ends up contradictory in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. How could he, the hand of God, if... L plus ratio.
Because Victor attempts to be the hand of God. Attempts to be God.
So do you think it's a... Did you... I like have the thoughts in my head, but I don't know how to articulate them. How then, So, if he is functioning as the hand of God, I don't think that kind of position is granted on him at the moment of creation. It is a position that is given to him after the fact because of the environment that Victor cultivates. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
I do.
That because what the creature functioned as an experiment in life and death of, bringing life into something. Victor is playing God, yes.
Yes.
But the creature is just the result of it. And perhaps there is something about, like, that encounter with knowledge, with, like, Paradise Lost, that basically cultivates the hand of God position for the creature. Because he only wants friends, like...
But he never gets to If he had rational faculty, he could have chosen to left Victor alone and tried to find people that would accept him.
That's exactly what he tried to do.
But then he came back to Victor.
Because that's his father.
Because it was preordained that he must torment Victor.
No, I think that's a decree that he makes. That he realizes that, alright, I left Victor alone. He is gone from me. I am gone from him. I found this family. They will accept me because they are not Victor.
But he doesn't choose to seek out William.
No.
By circumstance.
I think that's where the thing changed.
By circumstance, by fate, he finds William. He finds the brother of Victor. And from there comes the hand of God.
Well, because
he enacts punishment!
I think that...
Divine retribution!
I think there, yes.
I apologize.
I don't think he has it innate in him, though.
Yeah.
Because he does try to flee from Victor. I think that's just... That plays to the idea of, like, sins of the father. Always haunt the son sort of thing. And I'm not even sure if it's... I think it's that Victor's just such a force in his life that Victor will never leave it.
I think that if the creature had free will, he would have chosen to not ever see Victor again.
Yeah.
Because
he doesn't ever go see the Lacey's.
Because they abuse him.
So does Victor.
Yeah.
He
then he gets shot in the woods.
Yeah.
My head hurts. Your mom is texting you.
If the creature had free will, and the creature chooses not to ever see Felix and everyone else ever again, for the same reasons, for the same treatment that Victor himself gives, why not just abandon everything? But instead the creature is compelled to torture Victor until death, and in Victor's death, the creature dies as well.
No, here's my thing though. Because the creature gives Victor a deal. The creature says, if you make me a wife, I will leave you alone. I will move to South America.
But it
with
never
my
could
wife.
have been.
But I think the creature genuinely did believe that Victor could do it, because if he did it with me, he can do it again. But it's the mental fortitude is too weak.
I think that creature's actions were always preordained based on the actions that Victor would choose.
Explain.
I think that free will and fate go absolutely hand in hand. And that in the terms of literature, there are characters who are subjected to free will, and there are characters who are subjected to their actions the characters of fate will always follow the same course around the free will of others. There are characters like Frankenstein who can make those choices, like, I choose not to do this. But either way, the creature would always have to subject itself to being the divine retribution. Does the creature think that its actions are preordained as it has free will? That one's tough.
My head
I
hurts.
I think that the creature recognizes that it doesn't have it.
I think it wants to.
I think that he wants to have that free will, but knows by the end that he does not have it, and that's why when Victor dies, he must die. That he cannot be without Victor.
I think the thing is that the creature could have had a different destiny. It could have. It could have, that, again, Victor's kind of circumstances. Is it possible that we have multiple destinies and we have to choose? Or, not that necessarily we choose one, but we get put on a path. It goes to the, like, kind of idea of alternate timeline. Is there a possibility, like, that's why I bring up hypotheticals.
One person's choice leads to another person's fate.
But then you're contradicting yourself.
No.
Yes, you are.
No.
Because if it's an all or nothing blanket of a we have free will or we have fate,
No, it's
and
not.
not one or
No,
the
it's
other.
not. In literature, I believe that there are characters who have free will, and there are characters who are subject to the fate, to the destiny of that choice.
I'm in my hovel.
That's the alternate timeline. That's why some characters, when they make that choice, it leads to other characters who are set with that new destiny. They must follow that path. That is very true of thing that I cannot say. Yellow Brick Road.
Yep.
There is a specific character in each of them who follow, like, is basically Frankenstein. Who is set upon these paths that he cannot change. Based on the choice of another.
Yeah.
It is a destined end.
Yeah.
Based on the choice of another. The creature's actions could have been split, but either way doesn't have the choice of what to do with those destinies. It is based off of Frankenstein's choice.
Yeah.
So he makes the choice, and it determines the destiny of others. Do you see what I mean?
I do.
And in the end, the creature comes to recognize that I did not have a hand in this decision.
This was not up to me.
I had to kill them because of Victor. I had to act as retribution. I did not want to do this, and now that he is dead, I am dead too. An angel cannot exist without God.
Yippee!
Yippee!
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope everybody had fun and that your head hurts.
My head does hurt a little.
But I hope that it was fun.
If you guys have any questions, we'll take some questions before we go. Anything people want us to talk about more? Things you missed? Like, you know, just little things you noticed? Have a moment to just have a little bit of a discussion. I think we've hit on pretty much everything that we wanted to talk about. If you want us to look at a certain, chapter, do that.
It's the kind of head hurt that is fun.
Yes.
Because it's like, damn, well, what if it is that? And also, anything we say is not Bible.
Oh, no,
The Bible is not Bible. It is all speculation and interpretation. This is my interpretation. And it is the point of a debate to get another person into your field of belief.
You've convinced me.
Yeah.
You've convinced me. I did not believe that when we started. I think you have a point. Much to think about. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns.
At the end of the stream, what do you believe? Do you believe that the creature was able to act out of free will, or that the creature was resigned to be retribution?
I'm just gonna go to the bathroom really quick. I will return.
But after that, we're going to raid Lycio.
Oh, yay! But I want to give people a chance to question.
Yeah.
They have.
We'll raid at like 2:30. Henry, how do you feel? You feel silly? I feel silly. Notification somewhere, but I can't figure out what it is. I've never heard the divine retribution take before today. I think it's... You know, you probably haven't heard about it. I mean, there's probably other people who believe it. But I came to that conclusion myself. I haven't heard that take before, but in looking at it, I personally, came to the thought that what if the creature is divine retribution? Because I think I had been thinking about it out. Concept of divine retribution at one point. And then we mentioned
the idea of the chain and rational faculty. The more I thought about it, very deep digging subject. Really interesting how you incorporate it. Yeah. We were talking about Prometheus, and I was like, Prometheus made the choice. Prometheus was able to make the choice of free will to give fire to people. But I'm saying that Prometheus has free will, and that the crows do not.
Yes.
And that...
Because they're being sent.
Yeah. And that the creature represents the crows.
Yeah.
They are the
punishment, yeah.
If the crows are divine retribution, then the creature is divine retribution.
If you do not wish to, why did you say?
Yeah. And that idea of it. And James said I hadn't heard the divine retribution take before. And it's because I put it together.
I made it up.
I made it up. Not to say that nobody has ever made it up before, but this is my personal take on it. And it just goes to show that you can make up whatever you want when it comes to analysis.
No, okay. You gotta make, like, you know, you can't just pull shit out of your ass. Like, the example, like, you can't argue that Macbeth is a comedy. It's not, it never will be.
No.
Unless someone completely turns it on its head. But the original text itself does not support it.
Yeah.
You gotta be looking at the text.
As long as there's some sort of support in your analysis, then you can argue whatever you want.
Yeah, you just gotta have the evidence to support it.
And I think there's plenty of evidence to support the idea that, in different works, there are characters who have free will, and there are those who are subjected to the fate of that choice.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, the crows wouldn't have free will because they're crows. You know? They are something that would not have free will. But it's pushing that argument to something that should have free will. That's why it's the modern Prometheus. Your argument is valid if you can explain it in a 5-paragraph essay. Dude, you gotta show this one to Crowley. I think Crowley would go crazy over this. I think Crowley would, like, come drive to my house and punch me in the face and tell me to shut the fuck up.
Henry had a question.
Arts and lore, which Prometheus is fire to human. Ever seen prophecy? I don't know. I'm not aware. But analysis depends on what you are aware of or analyzing. You can't analyze something you're not aware of.
Yeah.
And analysis can be wrong.
Yeah.
That's
the point of, like, a thesis. Is it arguable?
Yeah. And it's arguable. Is it right? Who fucking knows? Only the person who wrote it can say.
Is that your Apple Pencil? No, sorry.
Done.
Okay, sorry. I thought your Apple Pencil was hanging out. Anyway. Before we end, I just want to say one thing. And that, my recommendation is that if you really like this game, and you've never read this text before, do it.
Yeah.
I like, it's here for free. I highly recommend buying a physical copy of it as well.
Also, if you enjoyed this, tell your friends.
Yeah. This is a phenomenal book. It might be my favorite book I've ever read.
Yeah, it's mine.
I absolutely love this novel. I highly recommend you read it. Obviously, we're just two guys. We're just two people in a bedroom with a stream set up. We can't talk about everything. But if you want to read this, it's here for free. I highly recommend getting a physical copy just to have it.
Yeah.
The Penguin Classics one that I have, probably can find it at any bookstore you can. probably for relatively cheap, probably used.
And you can also get an book for free.
Yeah. Support your local bookstores and your local libraries as well.
We need to find a bookstore to buy our books.
Yeah. But yeah, I highly recommend reading this. It's a long one. The language is gorgeous. I love the language. I love the narrative voice. If you're a sucker for poetry and imagery like I am, there's a lot of it in this. Good old classic Gothic lit. It's so gorgeous. I highly recommend it.
And, like, it's always important to remember that in analysis, your opinion is not stupid. There is never anything that is stupid. Somebody can say that you are wrong, but they might also be wrong.
Yeah.
There are no absolutes unless you misquote.
Yeah,
unless you misquote, like, or if I don't know, if I said that,
if you said that Victor...
if I said that the creature was actually a deer, that's wrong.
That's wrong, yeah.
But that's just
That's again
logic.
like Macbeth is not a comedy, you know? Like...
There is no opinion, just like there's no stupid question.
Yeah.
There's no... Because analysis is all questions. Question the text. There's no stupid question. It's not stupid to ask, I don't know, is Victor frail? Not stupid to ask. You can say that...
It's definitely support of that, yeah. He emaciates himself, he doesn't take care of himself, he envelops himself in his work. That's an art, like, yeah, they can find that in the text.
Analysis is accessible. You gotta access it. You gotta break out of the thought that English class teaches you that you are wrong and that there's a wrong way to do it.
But you also have to take yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone of thinking, because you gotta really think about some of this stuff, you know? It's gotta...
and it's fun.
Yeah. Some people don't find it fun.
Anyway, I'm gonna read Like You.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. We will be doing this every Sunday. Next week is The Cask of Amontillado. That is a short story. It's another Edgar Allan Poe one. That's also probably on Poe Foundation? Or
Poe Museum.
Poe Museum. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We will talk about this in our Discord, and we will see you.
I gotta go shower.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.